Welcome to the Top Pod Breakdown, the Joe Rogan Experience. Feel free to like and subscribe for all our content. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're going to be tackling something pretty wild,
Yeah.
pretty wild claims about uh, Area 51,
Oh, yeah.
alien technology, and a physicist named Bob Lazar.
Hmm.
Now, our source material for this deep dive is an interview with Lazar himself.
Okay.
This guy's been called everything from a visionary to a hoaxer.
Awesome. Right.
And we're going to be looking at, alleged top secret projects, reverse engineered alien spacecraft, and a
Yeah.
whole lot of mystery. So,
Sounds right up our alley.
buckle up.
What's wild is this all unfolds in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah.
Like peak Cold War paranoia.
Yeah.
Imagine, tensions are high and advanced technology is totally, shrouded in secrecy, right?
Right.
And suddenly this guy Lazar bursts onto the scene
Yeah.
claiming he's working on something truly extraordinary.
Okay, so let's rewind to the beginning.
Okay.
Lazar says he's recruited from Los Alamos National Laboratory,
Okay.
a place already synonymous with, cutting-edge science,
Mhm.
especially nuclear weapons research. But instead of building bombs, he's told he'll be working on advanced propulsion systems.
Think about that for a second. You're a brilliant physicist.
Yeah.
You get this super cryptic job offer,
Yeah.
and then you're whisked away to this top secret location in the Nevada desert
Right.
on unmarked planes. The intrigue alone
I
would
know.
be insane.
It's like right out of a spy movie.
It is.
Lazar describes this intense hiring process filled with, vague descriptions and security clearances.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, isn't that unusual for classified projects, especially in the 80s?
Exactly. But what sets Lazar apart is what he claims he encountered once he arrived at this mysterious location known as S4,
All right.
allegedly near the infamous Area 51.
Okay, and this is where the story takes a turn.
Yes.
From intriguing to mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Lazar says his initial excitement at being on the cutting edge of science quickly fades as he realizes the true nature of the project.
Okay.
Reverse engineering alien technology.
Now this is where the gravity reactor enters the picture. Okay. A piece of tech so advanced, it sounds like straight-up science fiction.
Right.
Lazar describes a basketball-sized reactor that supposedly generates its own gravitational field.
Wow.
Something completely impossible with our current understanding of physics.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
I know, right?
And to power this gravity reactor, Lazar says they needed a very specific fuel source,
Oh, yeah.
a stable isotope of element 115.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
At the time Lazar made these claims,
Yeah.
element 115 was purely theoretical.
Right?
A hypothetical element that hadn't even been synthesized yet.
Wow.
Years later, though,
Yeah.
scientists actually managed to create element 115 in a lab,
Yeah.
lending a sliver of credibility to Lazar's story.
So was he just a lucky guesser? Or did he actually have access to knowledge that was decades ahead of its time?
It's a question that's fueled a lot of speculation and debate,
And it has.
and the mystery deepens when we look at Lazar's descriptions of the alien craft itself.
Okay.
Forget your typical flying saucer imagery.
Yeah.
He paints a picture of a vehicle unlike anything we've ever seen on Earth.
Right.
No right angles, a dark pewter color, and an eerie, almost ominous feeling, he says.
So imagine stepping inside a vehicle not built by human hands.
Whoa.
That's what Lazar claims he did.
That's crazy.
He describes this unique honeycomb hatchway, 3 small seats, and the ever-present gravity reactor as the only recognizable features.
This honeycomb hatchway is
Yeah.
one of those specific details that sticks with you.
It does.
And it highlights the vast difference in design compared to anything built by humans.
Right.
It's like comparing a horse-drawn carriage to a spaceship.
Totally. And then we get to the test flights.
Oh, yeah.
The moment where Lazar says he witnessed this otherworldly tech in action.
Okay.
He describes the silent glowing craft performing maneuvers that defy our understanding of aerodynamics.
So picture this. A craft hovering silently, then suddenly darting across the sky at impossible speeds, making sharp turns without any visible means of propulsion. It's enough to make you question everything you thought you knew about physics.
Yeah, it's one thing to hear about alien technology, but to
Oh.
actually witness it firsthand,
That's wild.
that's a whole other level.
Yeah.
Lazar says his initial excitement gave way to concern.
Okay.
The sheer power of this tech, the unanswered questions, the feeling of being in way over his head.
It's like being handed the keys to a Ferrari without knowing how to drive.
Right.
And that sense of unease,
Yeah.
of being on the edge of something both profound and dangerous.
Yeah.
It really permeates Lazar's story. He describes a growing conflict between the thrill of scientific discovery
Right.
and the chilling implications of what he was witnessing.
It's a fascinating psychological aspect to consider.
It is.
The burden of knowledge, the struggle between wanting to share what you've seen and the potential consequences of doing so.
And this is where we start to see the seeds of what Lazar claims became a cover-up, a deliberate effort to silence him and discredit his story. But we'll delve into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, me too.
So we've got this incredible technology, a potential paradigm shift in our understanding of physics.
Totally.
And then, according to Lazar, the curtain starts to fall.
Oh, wow.
He claims this is where the cover-up begins.
Remember, this is the 1980s.
Right.
The Cold War is in full swing.
Yeah.
And the idea of advanced technology, especially something like what Lazar describes,
Yeah.
falling into the wrong hands, would have been a major concern for the government.
Lazar claims that his decision to share what he knew with friends,
Okay.
even in the vaguest of terms,
Yeah.
triggered a chain of events that led to his alleged exposure.
Wow.
He talks about increased surveillance,
Okay.
pressure from his superiors, and a growing sense of paranoia.
It's classic whistleblower territory, right?
Right.
You have someone who feels they have a moral obligation to expose what they believe is wrongdoing, but they're also facing immense pressure to stay silent.
Right.
And in Lazar's case, the stakes were incredibly high.
He claims his security clearances were revoked.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his job at S4.
Wow.
And then things took an even darker turn.
Oh, no.
Lazar alleges that attempts were made to erase his past,
Like what?
including the disappearance of his birth records and academic credentials.
You might be thinking, okay, that sounds a bit far-fetched.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But what's interesting is that some aspects of Lazar's story,
Okay.
like the existence of a hand scanner he described at S4,
Right.
were later corroborated by other individuals who
Mhm.
claimed to have worked at or near Area 51.
Right. And that's what makes this whole thing so compelling.
Yeah.
It's easy to dismiss Lazar's story as pure fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have these little details that seem to check out.
And it's important to remember that Lazar went public with his claims decades before the recent surge in interest in UFOs.
Right.
Back then, talking about alien technology was considered fringe science.
Oh,
A surefire way to ruin your reputation.
And yet, he did it anyway.
Hmm.
Lazar went to George Knapp,
Okay.
a local investigative reporter in Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and spilled the beans, so to speak.
Wow.
He wanted to get his story on record,
Okay.
fearing for his safety and hoping to expose what he believed was a massive government cover-up.
It was a risky move, no doubt.
It was.
And the backlash was immediate.
Yeah.
Lazar was ridiculed, labeled a hoaxer, a fraud. His story was dissected,
Right.
debunked, and dismissed by many in the scientific community.
But there were also those who were intrigued,
Mm-hmm.
who saw something in Lazar's story that resonated with them.
Yeah.
And as the years went by,
Right.
and more evidence of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, emerged,
Mm-hmm.
Lazar's claims started to gain a new level of credibility.
Think about it.
Yep.
The Pentagon is now openly acknowledging the existence of UAPs,
Mhm.
objects that display capabilities far beyond anything in our current arsenal.
Yeah.
And while they're not saying it's aliens, they're not ruling it out either.
It's like the world is finally catching up to what Lazar's been saying all along.
I know, right?
And it begs the question, if the government has been studying recovered alien technology for decades,
Okay.
as Lazar claims, what does that mean for humanity?
Right.
What are the implications for science,
Mm-hmm.
for technology,
Yeah.
for our understanding of our place in the universe?
Those are the big questions, aren't they?
They are.
And while we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
exploring those possibilities, considering what might be out there,
Right.
that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
Lazar's story isn't just about UFOs and alien tech.
Right.
It's about the limits of our knowledge,
Yeah.
the potential for groundbreaking discoveries,
Yeah.
and the lengths to which those in power might go to protect their secrets.
It's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the universe
Yeah.
and our place within it.
Right.
And while we may never know for sure whether Lazar is telling the truth, his story continues to challenge our assumptions and
Yes.
ignite our imaginations.
One of the most intriguing aspects of Lazar's claims, to me at least,
Okay.
is the level of compartmentalization he describes
Right.
within the alleged program at S4.
Okay.
He says he was only allowed to interact with his lab partner, Barry,
Okay.
and that they were deliberately kept in the dark about the bigger picture.
It's almost like they were working on a tiny piece of a giant puzzle
Right.
without ever being allowed to see the full image.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, how effective can that kind of extreme secrecy really be?
Yeah.
Wouldn't a more collaborative approach, where scientists could freely share their findings and ideas,
Right.
be more beneficial in the long run?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, if the goal was to truly understand
Yeah.
and potentially replicate this alien technology,
Right.
you'd think a more open exchange of information would be crucial.
Exactly. And Lazar himself has speculated that this obsession with secrecy
Okay.
may have actually hindered their progress. He even suggests that they brought him in,
Right.
someone with his unique background and perspective,
Yeah.
out of desperation because their conventional methods weren't yielding results.
Like they needed someone who could think outside the box.
Totally.
Someone who wouldn't be bound by traditional scientific paradigms.
Precisely. Someone like Lazar, who was young,
Right.
brilliant, and perhaps a little bit reckless.
Oh, here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Lazar recalls Barry, his lab partner,
Mm-hmm.
mentioning an archaeological dig,
An archaeological dig.
hinting that at least one of the vehicles they were studying
Okay.
wasn't recovered from a crash site,
What?
but from an ancient, possibly prehistoric location.
Think about that for a second. It opens up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
If these craft, or at least the technology they represent,
Mm-hmm.
have been on Earth for far longer than we realize,
Right.
it completely changes our understanding of history, of human civilization,
Right.
of our place in the cosmic timeline.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
It is.
It connects to some of the more fringe theories about ancient astronauts and lost civilizations.
Yeah.
But it also raises the question,
What's that?
if this technology has been here all along,
Right.
why haven't we discovered it sooner?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And while we may never have definitive proof,
Mhm.
it's a tantalizing possibility to consider.
And it speaks to the sheer scope of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
If Lazar's story is true,
Right.
it suggests a level of cosmic history that's far grander and more complex than we've ever imagined.
It challenges our very notion of what's possible.
It does.
And it begs the question, what else is out there?
Right.
What other secrets are waiting to be uncovered?
It's both exciting and humbling.
It is.
We're just starting to scratch the surface of what's out there.
Totally.
And I think we're in for some major surprises in the years to come.
I completely agree. We're on the cusp of a new era of discovery. One that has the potential to reshape our understanding of the universe and our place within it. And whether or not Bob Lazar's claims ultimately prove to be true,
Yeah.
his story has undoubtedly played a role in pushing us towards this paradigm shift.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener?
Right.
Well, I think the most important takeaway is this.
Yeah.
Stay curious, keep questioning, and never be afraid to explore the unknown.
I love that.
Lazar's story is a reminder that sometimes the most incredible truths
Right.
lie just beyond the edge of what we believe to be possible.
And who knows, maybe one day
Yeah.
we'll have the answers to the mysteries that have captivated and confounded us for so long.
Let's hope so.
Until then, keep looking up and keep asking questions.
Yeah.
There's a whole universe out there waiting to be explored.
So we've talked about a lot, like the gravity reactor,
Yeah.
the alien craft,
Right.
the alleged cover-up.
Yeah.
One of the things that really struck me, though, in Lazar's account was his description of element 115 and how it supposedly works.
This is where it gets really interesting from a scientific perspective.
Right.
Remember back in the 80s when Lazar first made these claims?
Yeah.
Element 115 was purely hypothetical. It
Yeah.
wasn't until years later
Mm-hmm.
that scientists actually managed to synthesize it in a lab.
Yeah.
And even then, only for fractions of a second.
Right. Incredibly unstable in its synthetic form.
Yeah.
But Lazar claims that the government possessed a stable isotope of element 115,
Okay.
something not found naturally on Earth.
Right.
He suggests that this stable isotope was key to generating the gravitational fields he allegedly witnessed.
And that's where our current understanding of physics kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
We know that gravity is related to mass,
Right.
but we haven't figured out a way to manipulate it
Yeah.
in the way that Lazar describes.
He talks about element 115 being bombarded with protons,
Okay.
creating an antimatter reaction
Right.
that somehow amplifies the gravitational field. It sounds incredibly complex.
It does.
And even Lazar admits that they didn't fully understand how it worked.
It's like they were given a blueprint,
Yeah.
for a machine far beyond their comprehension.
Right.
They could observe the effects, they could even get it to work to some extent,
Right.
but the underlying principles remained a mystery.
It's like trying to explain a smartphone to someone living in the Stone Age.
Exactly.
The technology is so far ahead of their understanding
Yeah.
that it would seem like magic.
And that brings us back to the question, if Lazar is telling the truth,
Right.
where did this technology come from?
Yeah.
His claims about the archaeological dig, about at least one of these craft being recovered from an ancient site, add another layer of complexity to the story.
It suggests that we may be dealing with something that predates human civilization as we know it.
Totally.
It challenges our entire understanding of history, of technology,
Yeah.
of our place in the cosmos.
It's like we're looking through a tiny keyhole into a vast unknown universe,
Right.
catching glimpses of something extraordinary, but not yet able to grasp the full picture.
And that, to me, is the most compelling aspect of Lazar's story.
I agree.
The sense of wonder, the possibility that there's so much more out there
Yeah.
than we can even imagine.
It's a story that pushes us to question our assumptions, to expand our horizons, to explore the boundaries of what we believe to be possible.
Lazar's claims have been debated for decades, and there's still no definitive proof to support them.
Right.
But the recent acknowledgement of UAPs by the government,
Uh-huh.
the evidence that there are objects in our skies
Yeah.
that defy our understanding of physics,
Right.
it certainly made his story more relevant than ever.
Whether you believe him or not,
Yeah.
Lazar's account serves as a powerful reminder
It does.
that we're constantly discovering new things about the universe,
Right.
that our knowledge is always evolving, and that there may be wonders out there that we're only just beginning to glimpse.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bob Lazar's claims,
Okay.
I think the most important takeaway is this. Stay curious, keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to explore the unknown.
I love it.
After all, the universe is full of mysteries. And who knows what incredible discoveries await us just beyond the horizon.
A whole universe of possibilities.